For a while things were cold. They were scared down in their holes. The forest that once was green was colored black by those killing machines. But she and her furry friends took down the queen bee and her man. And that's how the story goes. The story of the beast with those 4 dirty paws.
I'm super happy I jumped in.
Hey! How are you?
I'm fine.
Hello, Rez.
I'm just singing Dirty Paws. It's a good song.
Yes. It was.
Yes.
My phone giving me late notifications. Thank you, phone. Oh, that's weird. I'm not able to make tweets on Twitter. I don't have any notifications on it.
Oh no! File upload size is too large. I will figure this out.
Huh. Okay. Well, that worked. Oh! I'm dumb. I see what it is. Okay.
Hey, Ren.
Hmm?
Don't be dumb.
Apparently I was being very dumb. I was looking at it and it was like, the button to tweet isn't highlighting. Why won't it let me tweet?
You weren't signed in, were you?
No, it was, you didn't put anything in the tweet field, so it wasn't going to tweet a blank message, stupid. It was like, Because on the phone you have to push a button for it to bring up the box for you to type out whatever you want to put in. So I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. It was like, why isn't this working? Let me in!
Let me in.
So I need to make a smaller file size.
Or just delete some of the stuff in your gallery.
No, this is for D&D Beyond.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just, they
'Cause
have
it's
a
like-
size limit.
Yeah, it's like, no. It's like, no. Your file is too gargantuan. Rude.
How does everybody feel about this casual music?
El piano.
Kind of makes me feel like I should be running the mob in Mob Rule.
Maybe,
Love that game.
Maybe you will. Maybe you will. You don't know.
Maybe.
Ooh, I found a monster I wanted in the game. This must become a thing!
No, Ark, it's not a res that you hear.
What? You're out of your mind. That's not a thing. Alright, let me get these notifications out and then we'll be good to go. Bleep blop.
It seems like nobody has. From Forge to Morph to Ren to me to you. Shay, did you sleep well?
Oh, I never sleep well.
Yeah, that's our secret captain.
Well, alrighty then. PartyWipeGames and friends are all in a miserable sleep schedule right now.
It's why we should be playing Call of Cthulhu. Just everybody's sleep deprived and filled with horrors.
One of
Okay.
my meds is actually a sleep aid because I cannot sleep with. Like if I try to, like I keep, like my arms and legs keep twitching and I flip around and it is just like I can be completely exhausted and I won't fall asleep until like I pass.
Alrighty. So, the way this is going to work is I'm going to do Ozwick first because it's going to set the stage to lead into Lee coming in.
Oh, all right.
Aha! unless you don't want to go first. If you don't want to go first, I can flip it. It's fine.
No, I was sitting outside the room waiting for when my thing started because I assumed you were gonna start with shit.
Nah, I kind of thought of this today. That it's like, oh, I could set up Ozwick stuff and then have it transition really nicely into Lee's stuff. So, alrighty. Are you ready, though?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
And Shay, are you ready as well, even if you'll be sitting for a moment?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alrighty. So, hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Forest for the Trees, Volume 2, the rebooting. Yeah, the rebooting. I am, of course, the Dungeon Master Rindis, and these are two of the currently 4 lovely players, and these are their prologues. There's no title at the moment for the prologues, but it's going to give us a chance to establish who the characters are, better help set up the world and the current state of affairs of what's going on in the greater continent, which still doesn't have a name. Submit votes for a continent name on Twitter. Anywho.
Oh, we're gonna vote for the name?
Sure. Tweet them with the hashtag Forest, or no, tweet it with the hashtag FFTT. That way it'll filter better because people probably tweet hashtag Forest about forestry stuff. I don't know, maybe. Anywho.
Tweet hashtag.
That means you have to actually get a Twitter, Shay.
Right.
Alrighty. So, Ralia, as you all know it, is very different. No longer is it a large, spanning conglomeration of several states unified under a monarchy banner. Instead, we call them the Federated States of Ralia, FSR for short. Technology has progressed to a state akin to our 1920s, following the Elven War of Reclamation. As war does, it allows things to progress in a more fast pace than otherwise would have been possible if people had just had time to pursue leisurely activities. War is a great motivator for things to be bigger, better, faster, stronger. And that's how we find ourselves in the state of things. Electricity has become commonplace. Magic has integrated with technology on a level not seen anywhere else in the world. And Ralia, no longer existing as a bit of towns with a capital city and a castle, has instead industrialized and grown into a megapolis. It is a city-state. Quite literally. Thank you, Siri. Go away. Caught that one early.
Sorry, just thought you wanted to listen to some Daft Punk.
Well, that's way off. it went.
It's not. You just did the thing.
Daft Punk? Why would it be Daft Punk?
You just
Stronger, faster.
Stronger, better, faster.
But that was like... No, it triggered off of City State.
I didn't have a good time to segue before.
Fair enough. The Federated States of Ralia have, for all intensive purposes, federated the outlying regions around it. The dwarves, the halflings, half-elves, familiars, and various other like-minded races have united under the banner of Ralia against a common enemy, the Saint-Fate Empire. The Saint-Fate Empire decided to wage all-out war against humanity and its allied kin in an attempt to reclaim the continent for themselves and for the betterment of nature. It was a war that lasted for 200 years, and one that came to a climactic standstill. On the day of the armistice, both sides laid down their arms in an agreement to not fire another shot, but the war did not officially end. It just became a standstill until they could work out their differences, which neither side was willing to do. But today, we start in Ralia, the megalopolis, with the tall, spanning city spires, the smokestacks that come from the factories, and the sounds of the busy people moving about their daily lives, trying to just earn a couple gold coins to provide for their families. The camera descends through the busy streets, looking at the moving carts propelled by elemental power and driven by people behind safe glass interiors that prevented the pollution, rain, and wind of their movements. No longer these vehicles powered by horses or drawn by oxen, just self-propelled. As we move through the streets, we come to a large tower. A tower that is, by all intensive purposes, much bigger on the inside. This is the East Tower University, the standing mage academy for all of Ralia. And here is the headquarters of the ARD, the Arcane Research and Defense. It's where we find Ozwick Arkwright, currently graduating from his class and tutelage as an upcoming mage. Ozwick, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your character?
Yes, well, my name is Ozwick Arkwright. I've been a student here for quite some time, several years of my life. I take after my father, honestly. My father was a great wizard within the nation who happened to give his life before the armistice was signed. And since then, I've devoted myself to somewhat follow in his footsteps and continue studying.
Tiny notepad.
Unfortunately, I threw myself a bit too hard into my learning, neglecting things like social skills or playing outside as a normal child. But I have risen through the ranks, and I'm hoping to, once I'm through here, continue on my father's life work and make some good happen in this world. I have dirty blonde hair, pale olive-colored skin, not too tall, standing under 6 feet by 2 inches. Not in the best shape, but I do like to dress up, as it were. I'm in a full, like, 3-piece suit with just standard dark gray suit, jacket, pants, a bluish gray pinstripe vest, and a button-up white shirt with cuffs and everything, and just a darker gray wizard hat and cloak extending from the back. I'm never far from my my book or my bright green celestial weasel familiar Emerald.
Bam. You're welcome. So, the ceremony for graduation of your class has come to a halt. The headmaster had given a rousing speech about how everybody who would have a bright future in the ARD are the shining examples of what it is to be wizards and arcanists for the betterment of the FSR, the Federated States of Ralia. And just for the sake of this and for the time being, yes, I'm going to say the shorthand and the longhand until it clicks a couple episodes in, and then you'll just pick up the slang of people saying FSR, ARD, things like that. So don't at me. We're gonna get through this. And each of you had a chance to speak with your professors and the headmaster himself, who personally had come to Ozwick, given the relationship that he had with Ozwick's father, and he had offered you a position as an investigator within the ARD. It is quite a lucrative position. It would be within the position. You would be investigating magical incursions, creatures, and experiments, both legal and illegal. Magic is not strictly regulated, but it is observed and policed, as all dangerous things should be. Potentially dangerous, because not all magic is dangerous, of course. As all potentially dangerous things should be. You would be offered a position to, as I said, conduct investigations on any strange magical happenings within the city. You would have a district within the city to report to and provide work, and considering your pedigree, it would be a very lucrative position and possibly in a very good area for you to be stationed.
We need stricter wand control laws.
Yeah, those parlor games lead to more magical violence.
Well, I would be happy to take up the service here, as long as I still have time to continue my father's research, as it were.
And tell us a bit more about your father's research. You don't have to tell us now about it. It's fine. Or maybe you do. Don't at me. I'm kidding.
My father's research was actually somewhat of a hypothesis of his. He always felt that our lot against the elves was doomed to failure, what with their having such a much longer lifespan than ours. So my father theorized that perhaps their lengthened lifespans had to do with some connection to the Feywild that they possessed. And if there was any truth to that, if there were a way to either sever it, making their lifespans considerably shorter, or link humans to a different plane that would allow us to have our own lengthened lifespans.
I see. Very interesting. I'm making a note. Alrighty.
Oh no, DM notes.
Ozwick, do you have any surviving family?
I have my mother, and she's, at this point, since I've been off at the academy, remarried, and I've got some younger half-siblings, but they're still very much children at this point.
But they are in attendance. And in attendance, after you have your time to speak with the headmaster and we're given this wonderful position, your mother approaches, flanked by your stepfather and twin siblings around the age of 3. One being carried because they enjoyed being babied, and one preferring their independence and waddling as best they can to keep up. But when she approaches, she smiles, hugs you, pets your celestial weasel that is likely upon your shoulder or under your hat, and she says, Ozwick, Ozzy, as she would affectionately call you, much to the snickering of some wizards nearby. She'd hug you, kiss your cheek, saying, Ozzy, your father would be so proud if he could see you graduating today. Bless his heart, rest his soul, wherever it may have ended up.
Yes,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I like to think that he does see this. Just so thankful for this chance.
Yes, I'm sure he's happy wherever he is. We wanted to give you a parting gift for your graduation. We know how important it is for you to be on your own feet, but considering where you came from, it's important that you still maintain certain luxuries. And when she says that, your stepfather kind of clears his throat, and he extends a hand and shakes yours rather briskly, and he says, That's right, my boy. We've decided to let you take on some additional help, a servant. He'll stay on our payroll, but they'll be here to help you with whatever needs you have, housekeeping and the like.
Oh, thank you. That would certainly be most helpful and free up a lot of time for the position the professor offered me.
Of course, a wizard's work is never done, but wizards tend to neglect themselves in their health, and we'll make sure that she keeps you on a strict diet and getting enough sunlight.
Pardon? She?
Oh, yes, of course, your mother smiles, and she looks over her shoulder and makes a come forward motion, gesturing, Penny, please, come forward. And a familiar steps from behind your mother, dressed rather modestly in a dark blue dress. She has a Pomeranian floofy tail that lifts up from an opening hem in it and curls as all floofy Pomeranian tails do, and she has a pair of tiny dog ears, canine ears, at the top of her head, and she kind of looks at you for a moment as if appraising her own situation, and then gives the faintest of smiles and says, good day. Your nose starts bleeding.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. That's not normal.
She
The narrator chimes in. It was.
it entirely was. She already has a handkerchief in hand, and she extends it outward to kind of tend to the bleeding a bit. And she says, "Press firmly."
All right. It's like, so for non-comedic purposes here, he has a mild allergy to dogs.
What?
It's funny because he asked for Penny. He didn't tell me that.
Nope, I have listed down 3 allergies for him, going from mild to death.
To death.
Yeah, he's deathly allergic to nuts. He cannot eat nuts.
So if he ever nuts, he dies.
That's not what I said, but okay,
He's a nerd from Wizard College. He would have been dead by now.
That's fair. Yep, there it is. Yep. Oh man, how are you planning to fight the Xenofate if they throw flowers at you? You're doomed.
I know, right? That's why I made the save.
Oh God, we're gonna get along great.
Mm-hmm. Look, I brought you some flowers. Ah!
But I take the offered handkerchief and just attend to my nasal congestion. Thank you. What was your name?
Penny.
Well, it's good to meet you, Penny. I hope we get along fine in the future.
I would certainly hope so. You're going to have me for quite a while.
Question, Ren.
Mm-hmm.
Is she ripped?
No.
Oh.
She throws our Ozwick over her shoulder and carries him off. No.
You don't have to be strong with that.
No, probably not. He's just a wizard. No, but she's not ripped, no.
I can't say how grateful I am. Thank you, everyone. And I'm just gonna go around, embrace my family, shake Penny's hand, and I guess move on to wherever the professor bade me meet him after the ceremony, guiding Penny along with me if she's keen
And
to
she
follow.
does. She does follow behind you. She keeps a respectful pace behind you as you move to find your professor. And when you do, you find that there is a seasoned old professor with a nice long beard that curls around at the base. It's white, wispy, and he probably has one of those graduation robes that has a large and silly looking hat that goes with it. And he turns and he says, Ozwick, my boy, very nice to see you.
I'm assuming I would know the professor's name.
Yes, what is your professor's name?
Professor Kanan Otter.
Professor Kanan Otter, at your service.
Yeah!
I don't get this reference.
That's
I can't wait to
fine.
meet his wife.
She's a real fire cat.
Yes, good to see you, Professor. I'm very glad for this opportunity you are offering.
Of course. Very glad to have you. Your father was quite the wizard in his day as well. Much sadder off without him, but I'm sure you will fill his shoes quite exceptionally.
Well, I'm grateful for the chance, and I hope I do serve some good as well. as he did.
I imagine you will. You will have ample opportunity to do so.
Professor, this is Penny. Penny will be accompanying me. Penny, Professor Kane, and Otta.
A pleasure to meet you, and she curtsies politely. Ah, a familiar. Well, not many of those around, but perhaps someday you should meet my wife. She's a real fire cat herself. He's saying to you and nudges.
Rez is just giggling in the corner.
I am giggling in the corner. Shut up.
Quite. I would be happy to meet her someday. But Penny will be helping me. She's, a friend of the family.
I'm his servant now. Ah, I see. Well, good. It's always good to have a familiar and a familiar.
That title, servant, that won't do. I'd like you just to think of yourself as personal assistant. I will, of course, help out and provide for you whatever you need while you are doing your duties.
That's very kind of you, sir. And she kind of, make an insight check.
I'm a wizard, not good at these. Natural 1.
Yeah, you believe that is a very genuine remark from her, that she believes and respects that you don't want her to be considered a servant.
Narrator. She didn't.
I'm a wizard, not great at reading people. Just books.
Just books. He could read many things, just not people. Alrighty. And even Professor Otter kind of gives you a look for a moment, raises a brow, and is like, yes, quite. Well, is there anything else, or should I just give you your reporting orders for Monday?
I did want to ask if, my father had ever confided in any of his research to you at any point.
You're looking to pick up where he left off, then?
As it were, a bit, yes.
I see. Well, many of his works and research have been deemed classified by the ARD, but I'll do what I can to see if I can get some of that released for you and delivered to your new office.
That would be very kind of you, Professor. Thank you. I would consider it a great favor.
Of course, my boy. Anything for an Ark, right?
Yes. Otherwise, I will continue on and start with my duties now, as they were.
Yes, of course. You'll be reporting to the Amber Bright district. Not a bad neighborhood to be in. You'll have an apartment assigned nearby, and all of your effects will be moved there, as well as Penny's. And she's like, that's not necessary. I have my own accommodations in the pause. And he's like, yes, the pause. Well, all right.
That certainly won't do. I'm sure the apartment has more than enough space.
She shakes her head and she says, no, the pause will do. It's where my kind belong.
Hey, if you insist, Penny.
It doesn't look like she wants to say more about it.
Read the room. Popcorn went down the wrong
I
tube.
nat one. I can't read the room. I nat one.
Is there anything else Ozwick would like to do within the tower?
Not that I can currently think of. I think he'd just move on at this point. he would, of course, say farewell to his parents, his family, before leaving, and I guess reporting to the Amberbright district.
Okay. So, you head out of the ARD tower, making your way out onto the busy street, and much like the backdrop picture, very much how the city looks. Probably minus the planes that are down in the canal for some strange reason. Not sure what's going on there. But there's a bit more greenery. There are, trees here and there, but much of the city is built onto itself in layers. And as you come out of the ARD, you cross one of the bridges and make your way down towards the monorail, which is, of course, a magical rail that is suspended across lightning pylons that are elementally charged so that it causes a magnetism and reverse magnetism between the pylons and the rail itself to propel it at fast speeds that would allow people to commute around the city at a reasonable pace. Thank you, Eberron, for coming up with this incredible idea.
You said monorail, right?
Monorail.
Mm-hmm.
Monorail.
Not
Monorail.
That is
Monorail.
Mana.
That is
Miana.
yes, that is yes. Eberron is a pretty great setting. Yes. So, when you get on to the train, the monorail, you basically see that there are several cars that you could be taking. There's a noble car, there is a general admission car, and then, of course, there's a car that's designated for familiars. And Penny smiles, looks at you and says, "Well, I'll see you on the other side," and she starts to move towards the familiar car. And you can see in there it's packed full of other canine familiars, a couple of feline familiars. There's a curious-looking fish familiar with little gills on the side of their head, and where their ears should be, they're like the little flipper fins. There are a couple of feathered-looking bird familiars of the avian variety, but they're all packed into a dirty and cramped-looking car. And being an Arkwright, you have a first-class boarding. But she's making her way over to the familiar car.
That just won't do. I'll have to look into getting her a boarding pass better than that one. Seeing nothing else I can do at the moment, and not being great at reading people, I'm gonna head on to board the train.
Unlike the familiar car and even the general boarding car, the first class booth is quite spacious. It has comfortable looking seating, and no one is standing. There's enough space and enough seats, and generally it's so expensive that there aren't many people in it that you can sit comfortably, have leg room, unlike an aircraft of today where you're sardined in. That's probably more of the general boarding where everybody's cramped like a normal subway. But the familiar car has no seats, has handrails, but they're mostly packed in like a Japanese subway where it is everybody is standing shoulder to shoulder, crowded in there, nice and tight. And before long, the monorail starts up, and you're used to the familiar kick of the propulsion caused by the elemental lightning that sends the car forward. And you're moving at a speed that, for our terms, would be close to about 160 or 180 miles per hour. This is basically bullet train speeds. You're going very fast because this city has a lot of ground to cover. And you're in it for roughly a half hour, passing over several districts of various names, of various wealths and qualities. mostly these are upper middle class looking areas. There's large spaces dedicated to parks and recreations. The Guild of Urban Druids do a very good job maintaining greenery within the concrete jungle, and there are an excessive number of pigeons, but they seem to keep the statues and everything quite clean. But before long, you come across a bridge that takes you over a large swath of the city going east. And this crosses over the area that is called the Pause. And whereas most of the city up until this point, and it's probably the farthest east you've gone, once you hit this bridge and you cross over it, it basically becomes the equivalent of the ghettos. The quality of the buildings lessens, the streets don't look very well maintained, and there are factories and smokestacks that rise very high up, even up towards these elevated rails, and you can see that there are people milling about there, but there aren't many humans or even dwarves or halflings. This is mostly just an area where the familiars have been segregated to having their livings and dwellings, and it looks like people are getting on and living quite comfortably, but it's just a very rundown and not very good-looking area to be. Certainly not an area you'd find yourself living, having had such a comfortable upbringing. And after some time passing through this large swath of poverty, you reach the end of the bridge, and you come across another nice section of the city near the eastern gates and exit that leads to the Amber Light District. This is the district that basically borders with the open frontier that leads towards the demilitarized zone. So your station would have you becoming familiarized with any magical entities, oddities, and experiments that likely will have to do with things coming into the city from the east. Something that you seem quite prepared for, especially since you want to continue your father's research. Before long, the monorail, gotta stop calling it lightning rail, the monorail comes to a slow and surprisingly gentle stop for how fast it was going. There was a little chime and a warning letting you know that it was going to reach the end of its destination, and it sped down nice and slow, and before long there's the chime to let you out. And as you get up and go to leave, a pair of dapper looking dwarven gentlemen with finely kept beards shamble out first, and then you're able to get off, and you see that there are a few people waiting to greet, family, and others are busy shuffling their way out to go about business. But before long, Penny makes her way out of the crowded side of the familiar car and moves to stand back at your side. And she says, How was your ride? That's the word.
It was great. It gave me time to read. Remind me next time we're here, I'm going to look into getting you a better boarding pass. You looked very uncomfortable. I'm certain it was terrible in there.
You see her have a look, and it doesn't take an insight check to see this. She has a look that she's trying to stifle a laugh respectfully towards what you just said, and she shakes her head and she says, No, sir, that's not what made me uncomfortable. No, let's not have you go through that. I don't think you need to put yourself through any unnecessary obstacles to try and accommodate me. The familiar car is where I'm supposed to be, and that's where I'll ride. We don't need to cause any issues.
If you are absolutely certain, Penny, I would like to make you as comfortable as possible while we're going through this.
She thinks for a moment when you say that. as if she's debating saying or asking something. Being a familiar, she kind of wears it, especially a canine familiar, she kind of wears it on her sleeve, mostly because of the way her tail is swaying anxiously.
Come now, you can talk to me. Anything on your mind?
If I'm maybe so bold, and I know that I've just recently gained employment, sir, but is it all right if I have the rest of the afternoon off?
Oh, certainly. I see no other reason to keep you. I was just enjoying your company, and I will get the information to you about where I will be staying and where I will be working. Please feel free to take Emerald with you if that will make you comfortable.
She kind of gives the familiar a look, kind of like the two of them have a moment looking at each other, and she kind of shakes her head and she says, "No, that's all right. I don't think my cousin wants to tag along for this."
All right then. No, then you go enjoy yourself. Have a nice day.
And you as
Penny.
well. And she bows politely. And as she starts to leave, she bows and makes her way into the crowd. Emerald looks at you, and because you have a telepathic bond with the familiar, and because I like to play up that they are more intelligent than regular creatures that it can communicate back, it basically telepathically says to you, she's hiding something.
Yes, well, she'll tell me eventually, or not. And
I could follow her.
If it's... I know you could, but that would be disrespectful. That being said, I'd hate
We're
for
your
her
servants.
to get into any sort
If
of...
you want us to do something, you just say so.
We've been over this before, but... Look, just...
It would be
I'd
easy.
rather her keep
I
safe.
could find out what she's doing. It was really suspicious, don't you think?
I do not.
Hmm.
Look, follow her, just make sure she doesn't get into trouble, alright?
Alright, I'll keep an eye on her. I'll let
Do you
you
have
know.
any strawberries?
Hey, got any strawberries? I could really go for some strawberries.
I reach into my pocket and hand him a strawberry. We've been through this dance before.
Yep. He goes on. I'll just go ahead and link it so everybody can see how adorable this little guy is. And he takes up the he takes up the giant
Too cute.
he takes up the giant strawberry in his little paws and he nibbles it down quite quickly. And his little gem on his forehead glows and he says, "Ah, shit, yeah, that's the stuff." No, he probably doesn't swear, but he's like, he's like,
You fucking ruined it.
He's a surly little fuck. No, he's just like, yeah, that's the stuff. He says, "Great, thanks, boss. I'll keep an eye on her. I'll let you know if anything weird's going on."
Just keep out of sight and, well, do your best.
He
Paws just a little tinfoil hat on his head.
He paws you in the forehead and he says, "Boss, I'm a green weasel with a gem on my head." And then he pops off your shoulder and takes off.
I mean, he doesn't have to be. Is he
Everybody
really
looks.
Just stay out of sight. It's like, I'm fucking green. Yeah, so he scampers off in the direction that Penny had left, leaving you to your own devices.
Alright, I take a look around. Is there anyone that seems to be waiting to greet me?
Make a perception check.
That one I actually have training in, but it's a 12.
You look around and it's not hard. You know what you're looking for. You're trying to see if anybody is waiting, and there are scattered about a few people. You see that there's a human dressed really nicely in a black suit holding a sign that says Bamblebra. There's another that's a half-orc woman dressed sharply in her own suit, holding a sign that says Nilo. And then there's a dwarf dressed in basically a penguin suit tuxedo, complete with white gloves and a well-trimmed beard, that holds one that says Arkwright.
Then I will head on over and hail the dwarf. Yes, my good fellow. I'm Ozwick Arkwright.
Good day to you, Arkwright. Been waiting for you. Car's ready if you're good to go.
Yes, I should be good to go. All set.
Where are your bags, sir? He, holds out his hand expectantly to carry them because you're not going to carry them yourself.
I hand him my satchel because I was told all of my other belongings would be moved to my apartment.
Very good, sir. He hefts up your satchel for you and he says, right this way. Lovely weather today, isn't it?
Yes, very, very fine weather.
It's
Getting a bit warmer out, don't you think?
Yes. Well, you could do for some heat. It's actually quite overcast today, and it probably was showering in the early morning, but it is warming up.
And I will follow him and get into the back of the car.
Yes, he takes you to what you would know as a self-driven carriage or car. Don't ask how one led to the other, but car is the vernacular for self-driven carriage.
It's an auto carriage.
Yes.
It's SDC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an SDC, a self-driven carriage or car. Don't ask how the vernacular.
SDC emergency.
Emerald is going to die. Ark, no. He'll be back the next day. It's not that serious. But yeah, the dwarf throws your satchel into a back trunk and then is immediately in front of you holding the door open. He says, right in here, sir. And for what you would know, the model of this self-driven carriage or car is one of the newest models and a sleek black, and it's a long and luxurious looking one, complete with a roof that encloses the entire vehicle to keep out the dust, the smoke, and the rain. And he moves to take the driver's seat, which he pushes a little button, and you see the seat rise up a little bit, and there's the sound of some mechanisms moving, likely to bring the pedals closer to his stocky dwarven feet. And he pushes a button, and you hear the grumbling that sounds like a rolling landslide before the car starts to shamble down the road on its own. He says, very good. Where are we going today, sir?
That would be the Amber Bright ARD department.
Very good, sir. Oh, we'll have you there in a jiffy. And he starts to drive, and there are few cars on what passes as the streets here. This far out, it's unusual to see cars, but, the ones that are on the road, he's, maneuvering around deftly without causing any duress or shifting on your part, but he's just kind of maneuvering through traffic with a practiced ease and grace. And as he's driving, you're getting a look across the city of various buildings and shops. There's some butcheries, some nice clothing stores. There's a sign that reads Fantasy Costco. And you continue along, and as you're going, there's, various signs that are advertising different things. And when you pull to a street, make a perception check for me.
Perception. That's a big 7.
You are distracted with your book, reading, and you don't see the small halfling child who is standing on a box, holding up newspapers, and trying to sell them to passerbys, who declares, "Seen a fake diplomat due to arrive in Brawlia. Seen a fake diplomat, read all about it." And then before long, the car continues on. It's a short 15-minute drive from the station. It gets you moving. Wow, that's a nice suit in Vancouver. All right. Gets you moving, and before long, you see another building labeled ARD, much like the East Tower University branch of the ARD. But this one is smaller, probably several stories shorter, looking maybe only 2 or 3, but knowing your own magical nature, the interior is probably much larger and more spacious once you get inside. But it's not as impressively imposing as the ETU is. And when he pulls in, there's a opening that takes you underground into a small garage, where he parks the vehicle, hops out, opens the door for you, and already has your satchel present. And he says, "Here we are, sir. Right on time."
Yes, thank you very much.
Of course. Are you going to be needing any more accommodations for the day? I can wait here if you need.
I don't think that will be necessary, but thank you, and I'll tuck a gold piece into his hand.
He nods, smiles, and he says, "Very good, sir. If you're needing anything else today, just remember Copper Bottom."
I will do that, thank you.
He nods.
And I will collect my satchel and start heading inside.
And sure enough, you head inside, and as you go inside, you see that there's another wizard who had entered the elevator with you. Elevators being a fairly common thing in this industrialized city. And the elevator plays some soft piano music over a magical speaker as you two start to rise up out of the garage. And he kind of looks at you. He's a tall-looking human. He smiles and he says, "What floor?"
I'm not quite sure yet. Ground floor, please.
Very well. And he reaches out with a gloved hand and touches a G. And you see that he hits a button that basically says 45th. And 45 has a label on it that lists Fey Creatures Research and Defense. And so the elevator starts to rise up, and as it's moving, it's not moving very fast, but it's going, and even from the garage to the ground floor, there's enough time for him to take out the newspaper, and he seems to be reading into it, but as he's reading, he just says, "Lovely day for it, isn't it?"
Certainly. You work in the Fey Defense Department.
Yes, that's very observant of you.
Yeah, sorry. This would be my first day. I'm just starting here. Recently graduated. My
Congratulations.
professor... Thank you. My professor bade me come here to join in the ARD's section. Just, I'm not sure of what I will be assigned in the future, but I'm sorry, terribly sorry. Haven't introduced myself, and he extends a hand. Ozwick Arkwright. I hope we work together in the future.
1 second. Name generator, name generator, name generator. Wow. Now that is a name. All right. He folds up the newspaper for a moment and extends his gloved hand towards you and smiles. He's a tall, thin-looking man with a hawkish nose and dark hair that's swept to the left. But he shakes the hand and he says, Gildern Proudbloom. Gildern?
The silence is deafening.
I don't know how that uncapitalized his G from just copying it, but Gildern Proudbloom.
Well, it is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Proudbloom.
Bloom?
That's what I said.
You said boob.
It might have been my accent, but I said Proudbloom.
Okay. It says quite. I've heard good things about the Arkrights.
Oh, really? My, father, perhaps?
Yes, your reputation precedes you.
Well, I hope to prove myself while working here.
The ARD will put you through the rounds. You'll have ample time to do so. And just as quickly as he was giving you pleasantries and formalities, he's back to his newspaper. Do you want to take a look at what might be on the front page of the newspaper? Or
I'll
even
take a
what
quick
article
glance at
he
it.
might be reading? Yeah, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Well, I wouldn't be over his shoulder, but I'd definitely look at what, like, the front of it read that I could see facing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Very-
a 14.
Very good, sir. As you glance at the newspaper, the first thing you notice is it's actually dated a day after. So it's dated for tomorrow. And what it says in the headline is, protests continue. Familiar rights lead to violence. And then there's a ding at the door, and it opens up, showing the ground floor. And he says, there you are, my good boy. Ground floor.
Yes, of course. I step out of the elevator and proceed to whatever looks like a main desk.
Yep. And so you head to the main desk. The reception desk is very easily found. The ground floor itself is, for simplest terms, majestic. In true postmodern 1920s fashion, everything is extravagant and very played up. This building has accents of red and gold. There are sharp lines in the designs along the tapestries of the walls, and everything just looks like it's in a state of grandeur. Even for all intensive purposes, a magical police division. But you're able to find the desk, which is large, spacious, and there are three women behind the desk. There's a human, a half-elf, and a halfling, each working various sides of this sharp-cornered, rectangle desk, and they're busy at typewriters. And which one do you approach?
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more time?
At the reception desk, there are three women, a halfling, a half-elf, and a human. They're all busy working at typewriters. Which one do you approach?
I will approach the halfling.
Okay. The halfling is dressed in a women's business suit, skirt and blouse with a little jacket, and she's got a pair of like librarian glasses and freckles, like ruddy brownish skin, and her hair is curly but cut short. And she is busy typing away, and she seems to be clicking really, really fast. Like, you hear just ching. She's just hammering away at it. And as you approach, she looks up and she's still clicking away without needing to look down at what she's doing. And she says, what can I help you with? Ching.
Yes, my name is Ozwick Arkwright. I'm here for my first day. I was told to appear.
Very
Get
good.
assignment.
Very good, sir. Sign in here. And she stops typing for a moment, takes out a very large tome, slaps it down in front of you. It opens on its own, flipping several pages to one that has a few names signed into it, and a quill floats over to your hand. Sign in here. And then she reaches over to a box and presses a button, and you hear the familiar arcane buzz of a sending spell. And she says, Ozwick Arkwright, here for deployment.
As I take hold of the quill, I will not actually press it to the paper, and instead just press to digitation my signature onto the thing.
Very good, sir. And so your name appears in golden letters
Lazy
across.
fuck.
He's in a mage police building. That's probably the standard. Who writes?
It's probably a test. There's probably no ink in this quill. They're just trying to see if you're dumb enough to press it to the paper.
You know, honestly, I could buy that.
Yeah. So the magic scribes itself in gold ink across the pages, and it flashes briefly, giving itself permanency. And then the book slaps shut, and she reaches out and tastes it. And she says, "Very good. You're going to take it up to the let's see here. Here we are. Yes, Fey Research and Defense.
So full 45.
Yeah, that's probably what the DM said. I don't remember.
It was 45.
Okay,
It was
good.
45.
Yep, 45th floor. There you go.
Very well, thank you.
Absolutely.
And I will turn on my heels and head back towards the elevator.
Perception check.
Did you?
That's a 5.
You turn and you start to walk away, and you hear some faint whispering and giggling from the reception desk.
Well, I can't catch any of it.
Nope, you sure didn't. And you
So
press.
I will call the elevator.
Alrighty. And so you press the button to call the elevator, and the elevator arrives, and you're alone in the elevator this time. And you press the button, and it goes. It takes a good minute to get up there. Along the way, a few people get on and off, riding up various levels. Not many people saying anything at all, if anything at all, while you're making the ride. And finally, when you hit the 45th floor, it opens up. Sorry, hold on. Just got a text message. It's very important. They're asking what kind of ice cream I want.
That is absolutely.
Yeah, that's why. Like, sorry, I don't mean to.
Mint.
I was thinking mint chocolate chip, personally.
Everybody thinks mint chocolate chip. I don't know.
Neapolitan.
Neapolitan, good.
Get
too.
out.
He's a simple boy.
He's a dirty boy.
Oh, yes,
you know
berate
why?
me harder, Daddy.
Oh, somebody already got to the mint chip. All right, I won't need to add it in then. Yeah. See, my sister's
Vanilla.
my sister's got my back. I mean, some French vanilla is a good choice too. So the door opens up, revealing the 45th floor, the Fey Creature Research and Defense, and you see that there is a long sprawl of various cubicles and offices. The smell of the place kind of permeates like the various parks you might have gone to, where it's a very earthy and nature-rich kind of smelling. There's occasionally the sounds of some zaps of magic or coughs or muddled conversations that are going on in these various cubicles or enclosed offices, but there's another reception desk immediately to the corner, and there's another woman sitting behind the desk, and she says, Ozwick Arkwright?
Correct, yes.
Alrighty. Director Proudbroom will see you.
Yes, alright. Where... I start motioning in a direction, just, like, looking puzzled.
So basically the layout of this office space is from the elevator. The cubicles and offices are directly on the left or right of the opening elevator door, and there is a single long red and gold carpet that extends from the door of the elevator down probably the length of a football field to a set of double doors, and she says, "End of the hall."
Never mind, I see it, thank you. And I will start walking the red carpet.
Mm-hmm. Red and
Take
gold
like
carpet.
10 minutes to get to the other side.
Yeah, it's a...
I'm just picturing it's the Get Smart hallway where all the doors keep closing.
Mm-hmm. Actually, as he's going through, make another perception check, because I enjoyed this game.
Yes, the roulette of what does the wizard see?
Mm-hmm.
13.
You do feel the eyes and whispers of the various other agents and employees that are working here. They all seem very curious that somebody has joined the division. Because it's probably not every day that somebody does join. And so there's murmuring about who you might be, what your capabilities are, what school you're going to be a practitioner of, things like that, and how skilled you might be in handling fey creatures. But nobody seems to be outright approaching you or saying hi. They're just kind of, doing the office space gossip of who the new blood is. And before long, you reach the end of the hall, and the doors seem a little bit more imposing now, as the doorway itself makes like a very nice looking elven arch, complete with like artificial gold vines that wrap around the columns and make a very, surprisingly for an anti-fey division, very elven and fey looking architecture at the front of it. And there's like a little plaque at the door that says Director Proudbroom.
I will just walk right up to the door and
they
take the back of my knuckles.
Open before you make contact.
My hand just kind of fumbles in the air, and I just look at the doors in bewilderment. Oh, should have expected.
Arkwright, come in.
I do so. Yes, sir.
And you enter. You find yourself in a very nice-looking office. It has a surprisingly large window. And basically, the entire back wall behind his desk is an open window that has a nice view of the eastern side of the city, complete with the walls, and what leads out into the frontier wilderness but short of the DMZ. Everything looks very nice and fanciful out there. There's a couple of buildings between there and the wall, but more or less he has the best view of the eastern side of the city. His desk is large, probably about twice the size of the desk you're sitting at right now, and probably just as wide, and there's enough space for him to have like various books stacked up, some paperwork that he might be doing. There's a cage nearby that has a fey creature inside of it. One you'd need to make a Arcana check on to identify. But there is a creature inside of this cage that's kind of hanging on a stand. It's a fey creature for sure. But you don't recognize what it might be, but it notices you and it rattles. It rattles the cage a little bit and says something that sounds very nasty in Sylvan, which you do not speak. And he says, "Oh, disregard the Bogart. And come, have a seat." And he gestures to a chair that's in front of the desk.
I will take the offered seat.
He says, "Well, Mr. Arkwright, Agent Arkwright,
yes,
as
sir.
you all will be referred to going forward, welcome to the Fey Research and Defense Division."
Yes, thank you. I was not expecting us to work together so soon after I said that.
I had a feeling we would.
I'm guessing it has to do with my father's reputation. But nonetheless, I'm proud to help out and serve any way I can from this day forward.
Of course. I foresee good things from you, Arkwright. And he says, you'll be starting first thing tomorrow. Tell me, what do you know of the Saint of Fate diplomat coming in soon?
That is a good question. What do I know?
History check, please. You know jack and shit. You do know that every so often, the Saint of Fate does send delegations to Rallia, the city itself, to meet with the royal family. Not very often do they stay very long. It's a formality that's been going on for the last 20 years to keep up appearances that everything is okay. Most people within the FSR are not super aware of what dealings happen when the delegations go to or from Rallia or the Saint of Fate itself, but it really is just kind of like a check-in where, the people a little higher up and in the know that it's like, they show up and they're like, "We're still here, we're gonna get you." And the Rallians are like, "Yeah, you try, you dirty knife ears, and we'll meet you in the trenches." And then, they leave. But you don't have any real information on who the current delegate is. But you know that they're due to arrive sometime later today. No, tomorrow. Sometime tomorrow.
I'm not too
No,
briefed
today.
on the particulars.
They're due to arrive today. Sometime today. Later today. I gotta remember my prophesized.
All right.
Yeah, later today. They are due to arrive today, and there's a big kerfuffle about it.
I'm not apprised of the specifics. I was very focused on my end of semester test, you see, and I know they're supposed to be arriving today, but beyond that, I don't know much beyond it.
Well, while the delegate is within the city, all ARD divisions are on heightened alert. We don't ever suspect that there will be subterfuge with these elven rabble, but usually some sort of incursion happens in their wake. Your father was onto something, that there is a connection between the elves and the greater Feywild. It is something that we've known for some time, but have not been able to concretely prove or combat against. The magical nature of the Saint of Fate, frankly, far out exceeds our own, but we are making great strides to even the playing field, as it were. The loss of the arcane Sordium was quite the setback 100 years ago, but nonetheless, we are catching up to them, and we'll be able to go toe-to-toe with them magically in no time, I'm sure. As it were, I'm going to put you on a detail that will be keeping an eye on the delegate while they're within the city. I know it's a monumental task for a new blood such as yourself, but it's one that I feel will be appropriate for getting your feet wet, as it were.
You want me to watch over the delegate?
I want you to keep an eye on the delegate. By no means
See a little bit of.
By no means are
apprehension.
you a security force assigned to protect the delegate. They bring their own security for their own safety. You're in charge of maintaining the vicinity that they'll inhabit while staying in the area, keeping an eye on things, making sure they don't cause any trouble.
Very well, I think I can handle that. I thank you for this quite important sounding mission.
Yes. While they maintain themselves within the city, you'll have a level of autonomy. You'll be expected to report in your findings at the end of every day, but you're not required to come into the office. Just a sending spell will suffice to any of the secretaries, and I'll receive the memo. You'll also have to provide weekly reports of everything in person yourself, but your day-to-day activities are largely your own as long as you are maintaining your workly duties.
Quite. About the sending spells, are there scrolls I could obtain for those? It's not quite one I have mastered yet.
He does you one better. He reaches into a drawer, and he pulls out a wand. He says, "This will suffice."
I accept the wand from him.
You now
Thank you.
You now have a wand of sending.
Hold it. Is it shaped like a phone?
No.
Damn.
What's a phone?
I mean, you wouldn't know.
No, it's a wand. It's not a tiny log of sending.
Log of sending. Anyways, he smiles and he says, "Well, I think everything's in order. I would advise getting started right away."
You want me to meet with the emissary?
He gives you a smile and he says, "Have you read the paper today?"
I briefly glanced at yours earlier, but I was...
He gestures to the desk where the newspaper is sitting. He says, "Why don't you take it with you? It might give you a good idea where to start."
Very well, sir. Thank you. I take the paper.
That will be all, Ark, right?
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir Proudbloom. I will not let you down.
Director Proudbloom.
That. Director Proudbloom.
Haven't used sirs in 200 years. Not a noble. I work for a living. No. But yeah, it would be Director Proudland, though.
Forgive my slip up, and I will.
Oh no, that was
make
out
the
of
door.
character, Morph.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with it being in character. He doesn't know what he's doing, right?
Okay, then without the snootiness of it, he would just cordially be like, Director. And so you make your way out, and what's the first thing Ozwick does once he's back in the main hall?
I would look for a free chair, not occupying a cubicle, and sit down to peruse this paper he's handed.
Alrighty, you do so. Give me an investigation check, please.
These are one of my better checks. I mean,
He
so was
says
Arcana, but I
before
rolled
rolling.
a 5.
Hey, there you go.
Like I said, so was Arcana, but I rolled 2 5s.
So
23.
You take the paper, and the first thing you do is you open it to the front page, because the front page usually has all the main headlines and the subcategories that lead to different places. And that that front page headline still sticks out like a sore thumb to you. Familiar rights protests leads to violence. And there's a picture that goes along with it. It's a magically animated still that shows that there are several of the Royal Guard, also known as the Blue Cloaks, standing, cordoning off an area along with several covered bodies. That looks like there's roughly about 20 or 30 bodies that are being covered. And, there's like the little sub-headline, protests for familiars' rights and better treatment escalates to violence as Red Cloaks detonate bomb in protest square, inciting violence. Many dead, many more injured. Red Cloaks claiming responsibility, no one apprehended. There's a subcategory that talks about how the Santa Fe delegate arrived shortly before the attack. They left a statement talking about how deplorable the state of the city is, that they can't even maintain civil order within themselves, and how tragic it is that these downtrodden people were wantonly slaughtered by the violent acts of the Royal Guard that are supposed to be protecting them, etc., so forth.
I'm gonna try and make contact with Emerald if he's within range.
I'll say for the sake of this, you reach out and you brush the consciousness of Emerald, and he says, "Hey, boss."
Hello, Emerald. Do you have... You're keeping eyes on Penny, right?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't believe this gathering going on. There are a lot of angry familiars out here.
I also found a banana.
I also found a banana.
Where are you right now?
We are... Factory. It's outside of a factory. We are in the pause. She hasn't seen me yet, but I'm keeping a very low profile.
I'm going to very quickly close my eyes, shut out my own consciousness, and link myself to his senses so I can take a look around.
Oh, whoa, we're doing this. Okay, hi. You're in my head now. Okay, let's see. Hold on. And you see the movements and scampering of your familiar trying to get to a higher vantage point. And are you able to hear as well as see?
Yes. I can see through my familiar's eyes and hear what it hears until the start of my next turn, or in this case, if I'm just channeling
you're
it.
maintaining it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he moves to get a better vantage point, and you see that there is a large and angry crowd gathered. It's a mix of humans, half orcs, a large majority being familiars, all holding, signs and just basically protesting outside of this factory that's closed off, and being, flanked by several of the Raleighan Royal Guard, also called the Blue Cloaks. Given that they are dressed in uniforms that are accompanied by a blue cloak that hangs over their shoulders, but they're armed with rifles, and they don't have them raised, but they're at a defensive attention while these people are shouting angrily, giving various protest chants, demanding better rights and treatment, how unfair it is that they're getting shut out of their jobs and not being able to earn food for their families. The usual industrial, we want our rights, we're not getting our rights, protests that are going on. And sure enough, he's like, oh, there she is. And probably partway in the middle of the crowd, there's Penny. And she's in the same outfit she was in when she had left, but she's right there alongside everybody else, fist in the air, shouting that, the familiars demand rights and they should be taken seriously. And you get the feeling this is why she asked for the afternoon off.
I'm pretty sure
while
there's
I'm
another reason.
Yeah.
while I'm looking through Emerald's eyes, can I make note of any nearby landmarks that would help me identify how to get there the fastest?
You do see that there is. You tell Emerald to look around, find some familiar landmarks. You do see that there is a monorail station not too far, and you see that there is a rundown looking. There's an F Mart not too far by the monorail depot exit. F Mart being the lesser valued franchise of Fantasy Costco, Fantasy Mart, F Mart for short.
Smart.
Mart. And this is Kmart, not Walmart, guys. Don't get it twisted. Walmart is some middle class, lower class. Kmart is lower class.
All right, I'm going to disconnect my consciousness now. I'm going to head over there right away. Please see if you can get close to Penny and tell her that she needs to get somewhere safe, that she's in terrible danger.
All right, I think I can do that.
Thank you, Emerald. I will be there as quickly as I can.
All right, boss. Bam! And then your conscious disconnects.
Yep, once I'm back to my own facilities, I will roll up the newspaper, place that in my jacket pocket, and start heading for the elevator as quickly as I can, and I will take whatever might be the shortest route there.
Alrighty. And that's where we're going to conclude Ozwick's prologue. Let's take a short break, because we're at an hour and a half, which gives us enough time to do Lee's. So we'll take 5, and we'll come back. I'm going to go find me some of this ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Ozwick, Morph.
Thank you.
I think he's a pure innocent boy that's too good for this world, but
That's what happens when you're kind of a shut-in book nerd. He wants to believe in people and the best in everything, and that's just not how it is. But that's how the books depict it. Sometimes. Though he does have the skeletons in his closet, and I'm gonna go make food.
apparently Ark demands royalties for you using his name for Ozwick. You're not even here. He spells it with a C, Ark, so...
Shay, are you present? It does not sound like it. Morph, how'd you like your prologue? I don't think they're back either. I think this one's too upbeat for what I want. Let me change this out. Try this one.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is better.
Back.
Welcome back.
I'm also back.
Welcome back. Alright, where is Fancy Tits? Where are you? Ah, main cast. There we go. Yeah, I called her Fancy Tits. Deal with it.
I'll just change my name there.
No, not you.
Oh, never mind then.
Also, incredible name scheme for the entire Ethelinda family. Everybody's got an A name.
Everybody's got what?
An A name.
Yeah.
We're a proud A-name family.
Proud A name family.
We invented A1 steak sauce.
Wow.
We did.
Wow.
It was so popular. Like that's why we're like so wealthy.
That's why. Not all the murder and warmongering.
You can't prove anything.
Kinda can.
No.
Trail of bodies.
Just slowly push a body behind the table.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Alrighty.
They just tuckered out from partying.
Just tired. Just real tired. Alrighty. So, with that, we transition very far from the FSR. Across the continent, beyond the demilitarized zone, the border that marks east from west on the greater continent, divided by war, separated by the armistice, the site of where the ceasefire had been made, for reasons that have not been disclosed as of yet. Dun dun dun. We travel beyond the cityscapes of Raleigh City and into what looks like more wild, forested areas. Ancient, massive trees obscure the borders of the Cenefate Empire. But not everywhere is it forested and surrounded by the dense foliage of a forest canopy and outcropping. There are large swaths of open plains and places for some of the other races that have signed on with the Elven Empire, such as the Centaurs, to graze and prowl, given their own autonomy under their Khanate. There's also the vast underground networks where Blinged and Dazzle, the capital of the gnomes, reside, ruled by their own queen, but still pay homage to the Empire. But we focus in on the Royal City, which also has a name. It does have a name. I don't need to make up a name for this one. Because I still have the lore page open. Meath Alari, the City of the Sun, is the seat of the Cenefate Empire and is its own metropolis built within the naturally magical and beautiful forests. Situated within the protective, rushing waters of a massive river that leads into a waterfall, the city is guarded by magic, by the zealot forces of the Cenefate, and by the natural world itself. It is a place that humans are not allowed to tread, and those who reside within the Federated States of Ralia are considered hated enemies. But for the Elven people, it is a bastion, a place to reclaim their former glory, to restore the world to where it once was, and to instill a better future for all of Elvenkind. It's here that the Summer Empress makes her seat, where the Eternal Court holds, and it is where the family Ithelinda finds itself today. You all have an estate here within the capital. It is not your main residence, but it is where Asiley's family tends to do much of their work, and it is where Lee has found herself brought because she was personally requested to have an audience with the Summer Empress. You all know her in her radiant glory, both beautiful and terrible, as Summer Empress Lariel. She is the Eternal Empress, the bright star. But we start today within the estate. Asiley, you're busy getting yourself ready for this dinner that has been arranged for the entire Ithelinda family, but specifically in your honor. Your mother, Arissa, spy mistress of the Cenefate Empire, is usually here at work, while your father, Azalon, serves as a lore keeper and librarian back in your home. He usually tends to your main estate and helps take care of you and your sister, Alavara, who is naturally gifted in the ways of druidism. Druidism? Druidism.
Druidism.
Yeah, druidism sounds weird and it didn't roll off the tongue very well. Is it Avalara or Alavara?
I remember it as Alavara.
Yeah, Lavar.
Alavara.
It's Elvira.
Elmira. She's gonna hug them and squeeze them and love them forever.
We're disowning her. Sorry.
But wild shape, she can love herself.
Nope.
But here at the estate, there's a loud knocking on the door. And Lee, your sister, Alavara, is on the other side, and she says, "You need to get up. We're going to be leaving soon. I hope you're ready. You're going to set a bad example for the Eternal Court if you're not at your best."
Do we know why we're here, or just that we have to be there?
You have been invited to a dinner.
So I imagined, like, I'm just kind of, like, plucking out a few strings and playing, and then I'm like, alright. I set, an instrument down, and I hop up. I've probably been, like, dressed a while ago, and I'll skip over and throw the door open, and then just kind of, like, hop forward and hug her.
And she hugs you back, and she just says, "This is what you're choosing to wear? How are you going to charm the Spring Prince Xanavir dressed like that?" And she smirks playfully and pulls at your cheek.
Well,
They asked for you
Don't you like this?
specifically. Don't you know that if you get in good with the Eternal Court, you'll have us all set for life?
Oh yeah, I guess so.
You're so lucky. I wish I could have been the one picked to go before the Empress.
I don't. You want to trade places?
And she kind of blushes, and she's like, "She didn't ask for me, sister. She asked for you." Ghost dogs. Your ghost dogs flit through the walls, barking. Yeah, it's been this place has been haunted ever since Arissa murdered those pack of dogs.
You cut out at what the cause of the dog's death was for?
It's been haunted ever since Arissa murdered the crap out of those dogs.
No.
It's just like Doug. They keep following her around because they love her.
Mm-hmm.
This is arguably worse.
And that's why she killed them, because they wouldn't stop barking and leaving her alone. They're just always watching.
You don't sing blue?
The Empress prefers red, but if you want to take your chances with blue, kind of like taps her lip for a moment and smirks, she says, "It's always been your color."
Maybe it might compliment it. Two different. I don't know. I'm really nervous. I'm scared.
It'll be fine. And if all else fails, you can always just be a lore keeper like Father. She smirks again. My ears are burning. Did you say something? And you see that your father, Aslan, comes around the corner, complete with
Hello,
a raven
Papa.
against his shoulder. Fletch, the pet of both Aslan and your mother, Harissa. Usually he stays with Aslan for reasons undisclosed to the children.
Hello, Papa.
Hello, darling. Are you ready to go?
I kind of hop forward and I like do like a 360 spin to try and garner hit.
Yes, I think that will do nicely. And he is dressed very much as both your sister and Asilon are dressed as the pictures kind of present. Elegant, luxurious, decadent, with a imperialist flair to it. Whereas yours is obviously more modest and carefree. Your mother's gone on ahead. She had work to attend to at the palace before joining us for dinner, but we're going to meet up with her since it is in the same place.
Okay.
I expect you both to be on your best behavior.
Like, I do that thing, like, where I kind of, like, purse my lips and I squint and I'm like, my prom. After, like, relenting a couple seconds later.
His hard expression softens a bit and he says, very good. Let's go. We don't want to be late. You all leave your manor, much like all of the architecture within the Saint of Fate. It's not built so much as it is molded in a symbiosis with the natural world. Your home is a large tree that has been shaped and tended so not to harm the tree in any way, but to allow space for the elves to reside within it and build around it safely. It is a large and ancient tree, one that survived even before the War of Reclamation, given that the Imperial City served as a last holdout against the original human incursion into Elven lands before the dramatic pushback that became the War of Reclamation. The tree is dated to be roughly 600 years old. The estate, almost as much. It has been in Ithelinda hands for just as long. And probably Arissa is probably the only one who knows the entire layout of the estate, given her nature. But you all leave, and the doorway naturally molds itself back into a concealing bark, sealed with magic that only the Ithelinda family has the ability to open or provide access to guests on entering. Once down on the main streets, you all see a procession march of a few of the Elven Guard that patrol and maintain order within the city. There's a few gnomish citizens that walk about, going about doing their own tasks. You might see a centaur merchant pulling a cart and trying to sell some wares from the back of it. But overall, it is a utilitarian paradise. Everything is as it should be. The streets are clean and perfect. Everything is uniform and orderly. And the three of you make a nice walk that takes some time, but it's enough for you to enjoy the natural splendor of the city along the way. Your sister, of course, taking a bit of a lead so that she can look at and tend to any flowers or plants along the way that might need a little pick-me-up in their bloom, using her druid craft to make sure that the walkway is beautiful for you all. And before long, you do reach the palace. The palace itself, at the centerpiece of the waterfall that encompasses the city, and it is a rising spire of towers and buildings that surround it. It is extravagant and terrible all at the same time. Awe-inspiring to look at, terrific in its majesty. It has silvers, golds, mithrils, all kinds of metals that help shape it and give it an imposing and imperial-looking visage. And outside of the main gates are the Eladrin elite guards that protect the Empress and the Eternal Court. And when they see the three of you approaching, Aslan steps forward and produces an envelope sealed with the Empress's mark, and he says, "We are expected." And the Eladrin, both of which have a reddish hue to their skin and hair, part the gates for you all and stand at attention, bearing shield and glaive in hand. And they watch you both, or all three of you, warily as you make your way through and into the palace. The palace itself is abuzz with life. Elven high society is gathered to attend this dinner party and to see the Empress. This is a yearly event where she makes her appearance known and mingles with the people. Otherwise, having an audience with her is rare. But you do see that there are many other noble families in attendance, all gathered, dancing, enjoying themselves, dressed in their finest, and seated across the court, up on a raised platform, flanked by her eternal guard, is the Summer Empress herself, dressed in vibrant reds that flank her long, flowing, fiery hair, and a crown of black onyx that rests atop her head. Her eyes glow an unnatural gold color as she looks about, but she's flanked by an equally imposing figure, a man dressed in more dark colors, an equally imposing iron crown set upon his head, affixed with dark, icy jewels. You know him as the Winter King, the consort of the Empress. To his right is a third chair, where there is a young and handsome-looking elf who has a lighter shade of hair that contrasts both his mother and father. It's more of a brownish color instead of the red or the dark of his father. But you know that this is the Spring Prince. The Spring Prince Xanavir. He is a warrior scholar, famed poet, and many of the ladies of the court have vied for the chance to gain his favor, because eventually the Summer Empress will step down and he'll be crowned emperor, and whoever can be his consort will also hold power.
I blush a little.
And Asiley blushes a little. But your father looks about and he says, "I'll go find your mother. The two of you stay out of trouble for now. Look about, mingle, fletch, search." And the raven caws and flutters off to find its mistress, Aslan following behind it. So, what does Asiley do now that she is taken off of the parental leash?
I kind of, is there like music playing right now?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look to my, I kind of look to Alavara and, kind of like tap my chin. Do you want to dance first?
Dance? And she, does the thing where she brings a hand to her chest and feigns a blush, and she says, "My sister, I thought you'd never ask."
I grin then, and I'll I'll cast Unearthly Chorus to kind of like play along with the music and kind of amplify it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Alavara will start dancing a time together.
Roll a performance check.
With advantage.
Does that earthly chorus provide that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
this is a trick that the elves are all too familiar with. And while the two of you dance, it's not anything captivating, but it's a dance. It's acceptable for the court. And not unheard of for two elven women to dance together, especially as family.
can you tell I'm still nervous?
Yes, you normally don't step on my feet while we're dancing.
Yeah, sorry.
And she smiles and gives you a twirl, and she says, "You'd probably do better going to present yourself to the Eternal Court and seeing if the prince will dance."
Well, that is a thing.
It
I
is
would-
a thing.
I will try. Well, like, straighten up and then kind of like straighten my my dress. And I was like,
You cut out.
how do I look?
Like you're a nervous wreck about to introduce yourself to your future husband.
I think that's perfect then.
And
No, that's terrible.
She gives you a thumbs up and pushes you forward.
So I'll approach, and I imagine that with elves having a longer lifespan, like some older traditions are less likely to fade so quickly. So I approach and I give a very deep bow. Greetings, Your Majesty.
And you move and you bow, remembering your respects and courtesies. You stay in the down, kneeled position, head lowered. And the Empress, who is busy enjoying a glass of wine, looks down at where you are and she says, "Is this the Athelinda girl? The one I've called for? Asiley?"
Yes, Your Majesty. I am Asiley Shaegem.
Yes, the one I wanted to see. Very good. And she smiles, and the Winter King stares at you with hard eyes. And he says, "Where is your mother?"
Oh, she is here. I have not had a chance to speak with her yet. I was only enjoying the wonders of your court.
And as you say that, you see a shadow move behind the throne before your mother does appear, flanking the Winter King's throne, bowing low. "I'm here, sire, as you requested." And I'm just going to keep using that picture since you paid for it, Rez.
That's a really good picture, too.
It is. A lot of good qualities to it. Hugh. And so, your mother, Arissa, spy mistress of the Saint of Fate, gives a respectful bow, and she looks towards the Empress and says, "You summoned me." And the Empress nods and says, "Yes. I wanted to discuss this over dinner, but since your daughter has presented herself so formally, I figured the three of us could discuss a proposal." What
I
do you-
glance to the prince and blush a little bit, but don't say anything. I remain silent.
Make a perception check. When you glance at him, your eyes meet. And you notice that his eyes kind of glow unnaturally, much like the Empress's, but it's a soft green. And the two of you lock eyes for a long moment, and you probably don't hear a brief exchange between your mother and the Empress, because, the music starts up. Why do birds suddenly appear? There's that moment. And then you hear Fletch land on your shoulder and caw into your ear to get your attention back.
My ears perk up attentively, and I return to attention.
And Arissa gives...
Definitely not the first time that has happened.
Mm-hmm. And Arissa is giving you a hard, knowing glare before looking to the Empress again. And she smiles and says, I see you've met my son, Zenuvir. Good. That's not what we are here to discuss today, but you will have time to become familiar. And she looks to Arissa again, and then to you, and says, Come, we will walk in the garden and talk privately.
Yes, Your Majesty.
And so the three of you get up and start to head out, leaving the Winter King and the Spring Prince to reside over the gathering. There are many jealous glares and whispers from the people in attendance. Your sister gives you another thumbs up from the crowd, and she's migrated over to the food plate, or the food spread, and is sampling some of the vegetarian options, probably like a mouthful of carrots and dip, as she gives you a dainty thumbs up. But you'll disappear down the halls and make your way out into a large and exotic looking garden. There are plants and flowers that you've never seen before, never knew it could exist. Their colors much richer and much more vibrant than anything you've seen. Colors you probably didn't know could exist, like Blurple. Blurple is a color that only exists in the Feywild, and for some reason here in this palace. But regardless, you make your way through this garden, and even though it had been daytime when you all had entered the palace, this garden seems to be in a perpetual twilight. And the three of you start walking, the Empress having the lead steps, and you and your mother following in tow, several steps behind her. I have a proposal. Something that I think will help your daughter in the use of the Empire come to understand what is truly important for our people. Asiley, as I understand, you have only 20 seasons under your belt. A child born after the Reclamation does not know the travesties of war or the face of our enemy.
No, Your Majesty, I don't. I've heard stories.
Yes. The stories of the wretched humans. The short, stubby, ugly, hairy dwarves. People who consort with orcs and produce offspring with them. She visibly shudders. Even our own abominable, mixed things. She's, of course, referring to half-elves. To think anything could mix with a human is utterly disgusting. But for some reason, they choose to shy away from the grace of our elven glory and side with the Federated States of Ralia. And she kind of hisses those words And if she was not the eternal grace that she was, she likely would spit after saying it. Orissa, I think having your daughter serve as a diplomat to the Federated States to remind them of our power and our position over them would be both beneficial and educational for her upbringing. And Orissa thinks it over. It's quite sudden, Your Grace. Do you think she would be prepared for such a thing? And the Empress laughs, covering her mouth with her fingers. Of course I do. Besides, she would not be going alone. You would assign Deathwatch to look after her, keep her safe, not let anything happen to your precious child while she is within the lion's den. This will serve as a good experience. She'll appreciate her people and her empire all the more, and she will love me more for the experience. Isn't that right, Asiley?
So, like, that whole time there's, like, all these, like, facial expression as various emotions just go across my face. From, like, curiosity to fear to like duty, like all that kind of stuff. If your grace believes I would be remiss if I did not do my part for our people.
Very good.
I'll be safe over there.
You'll have bodyguards. 2 of your mother's finest will accompany you, and we'll make sure that your escort to Ralia will go without a hitch. You'll see our enemy at their most vile, their purest, deplorable form. You'll come to appreciate that our way is superior. And once you've instilled a proper hatred for the enemy, you'll return home and advise the youths on what you saw and what needs to be done to make sure that we restore this continent to its natural, proper beauty.
When she says instill hatred, there's like a very worried look, like, I don't want to be hateful, but I do not
Let
voice.
the hate consume you.
It's like, are they really that evil? Question mark.
Make me a wisdom check, please.
Straight wisdom.
Yep. When you think, are they really that evil? You recall, even on your walk, there were several propaganda posters lining the buildings that basically are. It is very much the World War propaganda style posters, but they're done in a very elegant and elven fashion. But it's largely just like the fist with our bows and elven swords lifted, and they're like, together we are strong, or fear the human, they are the worst. You know, types of things that just propagate that the Elven Empire is superior and they are, you know, what needs to be done, and if you do your part, you can help us succeed in exterminating humanity from the planet. You know, that sort of thing. And so you're like,
Well,
you're like,
she
yeah,
prob-
everything I've seen and have been taught tells me that humans are bad. Doesn't necessarily mean you believe it, but all signs thus far have indicated that humans are in fact bad.
Yes. There's like still that that expression of worry, but I do kind of like bow again. If it pleases your.
It does. And since you're being so amicable, I think a reward is in order.
My eyes light up.
When we get back, I'll make sure you have the first dance with my son.
I struggle to contain my smile.
Is that suitable, Arissa? And you see your mother nod, and she says, yes, quite advantageous. The Empress smiles and says, ever the schemer.
I keep thinking I need to keep replying. It's like, dude, you're not letting me answer.
Nope, you don't get to answer. You sit there. You sit there and let me play your character.
No! Admittedly, you're pretty much doing it exactly how I would, so.
Yeah.
She's scheming.
She's like, good.
But,
She's like, good, play it up.
but the Empress knows that she's scheming, so.
Of course.
Kind of like it's like I'm a competent Starscream.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're Starscream without being a dickbag who fails at everything. Or a screechy voice.
Your screechy voice. You're gonna cut back to the Ithalinda stronghold one day, and it's just gonna be Arissa singing "Be Prepared."
Yeah, prepared. The actual Be Prepared, not the shitty remake one.
No, I heard that was not that great.
No, it is. Pause everything. No, it is terrible. The remake itself is not very good, and the worst thing about it is they change all of the songs, and not in good ways. Like, you know...
Wait. Are we talking about CGI Lion King?
Yes. Yeah, they
I've
changed...
not seen it yet. Is it
Skip.
really... Did they really...
Skip it. They go the opposite direction of Beauty and the Beast, where instead of it being shot for shot, they're like, what if we change things just enough that it's upsetting? Because it's like, you expect certain things to happen or certain things to be said, and they're not, and you're like, wait, that's not what I remembered. Because you're going in expecting it to be like Beauty and the Beast, where you're
so forward to that.
Skip it. It is bad. Like, everything about it is not good. I think maybe the nicest thing that they do that's different is they structure the hyenas a little better. And in regards that they give it a proper hyena structure, and something that Morph would, appreciate since he likes hyenas. Shenji is actually the leader of the hyenas instead of, having the trio just kind of all be goofy henchmen.
Oh, so the logical choice.
Yeah, well, you know how hyenas are matriarchal, so it's like they put Shenji in charge, and, basically Scar recruits them to work, but they're their own separate faction. They're not his minions in this. He, basically strikes a deal with them to work for him. And so when he does Be Prepared, all of the songs lack that energy that was in the original Lion King stuff. And, it would be like, okay, you can't animate it to have that vibrant energy, but there's no excuse for the performers to not put on the same kind of energy that would be in these songs. And so it's like things like Be Prepared and Wait to Be King fall really flat, and they take out that fascist kind of, very obviously Nazi mirroring of Scar and the March of the Hyenas, and it's very much just I have this evil plan, so you guys should be ready to do it when I call for you. Here's me singing about my evil scheme and not how I'm going to rule everything. And it's just not good. And he's just, instead of it being, be prepared, it's like, be prepared. Be prepared. We're going to do a bad thing. Be prepared.
You want more disappointing rumors? I heard the live action of Mulan is not supposed to have any.
There's no singing at
musical.
all.
Yeah.
There's no singing at all, and there is no Mushu. It is very much. You'll be happy because they basically said they are going to try and get it as close to the original story as possible. It probably won't have the sad ending because it's a Disney movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and she's one of their Disney princesses, so she ain't dying.
I don't think she counts as a princess.
She doesn't, but she's still part of the line.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like,
Pocahontas technically isn't a princess either, but she's part of it.
Technically, she is because
in a loose sense of the term, yes.
She would be a princess by the definition if you compared Native American clan structures to what the European equivalents would be. She's the daughter of the chief of an established
that's
nation.
Basically their reasoning for adding her.
I mean, there's nothing. We're super
Aliens,
off topic, I know.
Yeah, Aliens is owned by Disney now, so every alien is a Disney princess now.
That's true.
I was gonna say Sigourney Weaver is a Disney princess now.
Well,
nope.
I mean,
all the Alien Queen has all those aliens, so they're all Disney princesses.
I mean,
maybe Clone Ripley is because she's got Xeno DNA in her.
Maybe.
The princess requirement still has like a monetary number tied to it too, and I don't think Ridley Scott's ever reached the numbers needed to get there, so they're probably not considered princesses. Plus, they don't sing or have magical animal companions.
I will point you to Spaceballs, where
that doesn't
one of the
count.
Xenomorphs absolutely sings and dances.
That doesn't count.
Anyway, back on.
Back on topic. So we move the scene along because don't get the Summer Empress started on how bad the human remake of The Lion King was because she rants forever. But we fast track back to the inside of the palace where you all have gathered, and everybody's having a good time enjoying the party. But the Empress said you get to have the honor of the first dance with the prince. And so she basically dismisses your mother. Your mother goes off to find Aslan and your sister. And you can see them off on the side watching as the Summer Empress addresses the entire gathering of the court. And she says, "My people, my children, my beloved, I stand before you today, your eternal Empress, your beacon, your bright star, your protector against our hated foes. I present to you Asiley Ithelinda, our newest delegate to the Federated States of Ralia," and she gestures with a hand for you to come stand at her side and to take her hand.
I do so.
She will depart in the morning to be our representative to remind them of our might and of our majesty, and of our goal to see this nation, this continent, our glorious ideals brought to the forefront. She will remind them that we are coming, that this armistice will not last, and that once the time comes, we will rain a righteous wrath upon them. And you see many, the vast majority of the gathered delegation clap and cheer and share the sentiments of the Empress. They're excited at the prospect of reigniting this war, and they can't wait for the chance to drive the humans from the continent. And she gives it a moment, lets it sink in, lets you see the fervor and excitement within everyone's eyes. You probably have a moment to look over to your family. You see Asiley clapping. You probably see Arissa slowly clapping. Whether she agrees or not, she doesn't wear on her sleeve, but she gives the appearance of being in line with the idea. Your sister claps politely, but it's very clear that she probably doesn't agree, but she won't openly say it, especially not here. And after a moment of letting the sensation wash over you, she holds up a hand to silence the crowd again, and she says, "And because of this honor, and because of the honor that young Asiley does for our empire, she has the honor of having the first dance with my son." And Asiley, you see Xanavir kind of like perk up a bit. He had been in a reclined position listening, but at the mention of having a dance with you, he sits up a little more straight and eventually rises to his feet and walks to the other side of his mother and offers his hand to you.
Inwardly, but politely, outwardly. I extend my hand and give that low curtsy. May the legacy of our people be eternally beautiful.
Ha! Found it. He says, "Eternally beautiful, much like yourself." And he kneels and kisses the top of your hand.
Blush.
And hold on, I need to find something. Let's see if I can. This might do. I haven't listened to it, so hopefully it doesn't clash with what I'm planning. Because that never backfires. But he kisses the top of your hand, and you blush, and he walks you out to the center of the dance floor. The lights go dim, and a single magical globe, drift globe, hangs over the two of you, and casts down some sparkling lights. The Empress gestures, and the band starts up. And the two of you start the dance. And it's a very elegant but fast-paced movements. He's taking the lead, and he's guiding you through the motions. But give a performance check with advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom. If ever where there was a moment to get a crit.
This is the moment to impress.
Yeah, this is the moment to impress. The audience is captivated. They love watching the two of you. You're perfect. You're graceful. The two of you look like a natural fit. You hear over the music, because the crowd is watching and whispering, that they're already shipping it. Zanuli. Zanuli is what they're calling it.
Zanuli.
Yep, you're the new Brangelina, Zanuli.
Ugh. I gotta take control of Rissa. Kill the prince, put an end to this.
Fucking Zanuli.
That's a lovely name. What's your human name?
Azuvir?
Oh, they call me Tobias.
Azuvir? Azuvir.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, shouldn't she get top billing in Elven Society?
Maybe? Who knows? Probably. Azuvir. Azuvir is the new ship. Everybody's talking about it. There's already a guy outside selling t-shirts.
Just gonna write Azuvir down.
Yeah. Also, this music sucks. I wanted something very up-tempo, and this is just like... First of all, I didn't want lyrics. I wanted just music.
He's the cat who chews the new shoe.
Let's
I hate it.
see.
It's everything I didn't want in this music. Doo-ba-doo-boo. There we go. That's what I wanted. Yeah, the beat of the music shifts as everybody's just very much into the two of you being together, dancing. And before long, the Empress gives a gesture that everybody else can move and join in. And before long, the dance floor is filled with excited elves, moving to the rhythm of the music, keeping step with the two of you. The two of you are very much leading the dance floor, and everybody else is following. If you didn't know any better, it would have been perfectly choreographed if you hadn't, started the dance yourself and didn't have time to show it for the practice. But if anyone was watching like it was a publicized television show, it would be one of those beautiful moments that you would see in a musical where everyone's moving in time to the beat. And before long, the music does wind down, and the two of you need to have, time to catch your breath and relax and enjoy. And you realize that while you had been dancing, it's probably been several hours that you've now spent with the prince. And he kind of smiles and is like, "Did you want to step outside for some air?"
Oh, certainly.
Alright, I'm just going to kill that since I found the music I wanted. I'll put it back on this one. And so the two of you head outside for some air. And Xanathir offers his arm and guides you out. And, you don't go to the garden, but you go to a secluded balcony where the two of you can have a moment to talk. And here you can see that the sun is actually setting in the sky now, giving a nice evening sunset over the waterfalls. You can see the wide river that leads out into the Empire proper. And he says, "That was a lot of fun. I didn't think you'd be such a good dancer."
Oh, well, I think you kind of inspired me. You were leading after all. I don't think I could have without you.
I inspired you. My dear, you inspired me. And that's what caused us to dance so well. You're breathtaking, inspiring. I think you're a good pick for my mother's mission.
I kind of like look out towards like the oranges and purple hues of the sunset. It's really beautiful. I heard Ralia doesn't. I heard Ralia stone forests are not so accommodating of sites like these.
I don't think there's many a tree between the ugly spires and stone and steel work that makes up that city. You're going to hate it.
Have you ever seen any pictures or anything from?
I have looked into it, and I don't find the appeal. Frankly speaking, I had passed up the opportunity to go myself. I didn't think it would be a good fit for such a thing, and besides, I have other tasks to tend to here.
Oh, I can understand.
And don't look at it with such regret. My mother picked you because she believes you're the most capable for this assignment, and I have to agree with her.
Oh, I will certainly do my best.
Good.
Oh. Hopefully, all the troubles could be put behind us soon.
He kind of smiles and he says, "Yes, I have a feeling that the troubles will go away quite soon."
Well, at least I can start seeing more of the continent. I was a little worried. I'll never get to experience the world, but
Well, it's good that you'll have a chance to take it in before we reclaim it for ourselves.
I'll kind of like inch myself a little closer, and like if he allows it, I'll lean.
You cut out, you'll lean.
If he allows it, I'll lean into him.
You don't meet any resistance. In fact, he brings an arm around you and he says, "Asiley, once your task is done, if you're willing, would you consider courtship?"
Inwardly, yes! Outwardly, I would be honored.
He nods with a smile, and he leans in and gives you a kiss, and then it fades to black.
Because your mother just swooped in and beat the shit out of him.
Yes, this is exactly as she planned.
Be prepared. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes. When it unfades from black, you're in a carriage. It is a self-propelled carriage or car of a sleek elven variety. You remember everything that led up to this point. You had a wonderful night. You got up in the morning. Your things were already packed. Your mother had it arranged. The servants had gotten everything together for you, and you were greeted outside. With your new bodyguard detachment. You have a pair of wood elves, 2 male wood elves with chestnut brown hair. They look like they're twins. Each one with a sword at his hip, the other with a masterfully crafted looking bow. But they introduce themselves as your bodyguards. And then the driver of the vehicle is a gnome, dressed rather nicely, in a sharp-looking suit and a Tribbley hat. It doesn't look like he's armed, but if you want to make a perception check to see if he's actually armed.
I will make that check.
When you go to shake his hand when he introduces himself, you see that there is one of those concealed holsters on the interior of his coat along the left side, and there is a mechanical weapon that you would know is just a pistol strapped to his side, so he is also armed. But the carriage itself, unlike now that you've seen, but for comparison to the earlier scenes with Morph, these vehicles, these cars for the Elven Nation, are much sleeker, a more natural design, more elegant and aerodynamic design to them instead of a more boxy, industrious-looking thing. And they are completely on the ground. They're not raised up like Rallian vehicles are, because instead of like Rallian vehicles that bind earth elementals to them, there is a nature spirit that inhabits the Sanafate vehicles that allow it to essentially just earth glide. So it is more or less attached to the ground, and it just propels itself instead of rumbling over it like the way the Rallian vehicles are designed. So it's in a perpetual earth glide. So the ride is much smoother, and as you're driving...
That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? It's basically a very like sleek Rolls Royce compared to I don't even know what the
working class Ford.
Yeah, working class Ford in the 1920s. Those aren't Model Ts, but whatever. The 1920s kind of like Rallians would have like muscle cars versus a European vehicle, that sort of thing. But it's a very sleek ride, and you've probably been riding for several hours, but this trip is... you've been riding for probably 2 days now, I guess would be a better way to put it. This trip is going to take several days, but you've been driving for 2 days now, and the 2 elven bodyguards sit on seats that flank yours. So basically it's kind of like a limo where you have your seats which are the normal back facing, and then theirs are flipped to where they have seats with their back up against the driver's seat, and so they sit facing you with their backs to the road, and they've just kind of kept to themselves, reading or meditating, but they haven't made much conversation, and the driver has been focused on the road. But before long, he says something through like the little like downed window, that causes the elves to perk up. But he says something in a cant that you can't quite pick up, but you've noticed your mother use from time to time when talking to Death Watch agents that come through. And the two of them perk up, and they look out the window and nod to each other.
I peek out the window.
Give me a perception check. You see what looks like a large stretch of empty grassland. Nothing about it seems very special or out of place. It is just a large stretch of uninspired terrain. Nothing that should have caused the three of them to have this quick notice and put the two on alert. Give me an Arcana check with advantage.
Well, shit.
You see a faint glimmer along the windows, but you can't quite pick up what caused it.
I saw a glimmer. Do we need to know what that was?
The elven male with who carries the swords kind of perks up. Looks at the window and then looks at you, and he says, "Lady Ethelinda, if you saw a glimmer in the vehicle, it's obviously some magical protection that we put on it to keep you safe. There's nothing to worry about."
Oh. Well, of course.
The Empress takes your safety very seriously. There's nothing to worry about.
Is there something to worry about?
Do you want to incite him?
I would.
I just said no. Why are you asking?
God, the opposite ends of the spectrum.
His words don't sound genuine. It sounds like he is telling you something you want to hear, but it's very clear that he is hiding something from you.
Well, okay. And I guess I'll be a little more on alert.
Mm.
Hey. I'm going to... Can I make a history check on what might be out in these plains? Or maybe nature?
First, give me another perception check. Okay. Before long, it's probably like while you're thinking about it, a couple hours pass while you're driving, and the gnome says again to the others in this cant, and I'm just going to post it here, just because I'm pretty sure out of character you know what it is, and for the audience who are familiar with it, Thieves' Cant! Lee doesn't get to translate it, but you can. Yeah, go ahead and make a history check, see if you know anything. You're a well-educated, noble child. You know your histories, you know about the War of Reclamation, you know the horrors that the humans brought upon the Elven society and how your people fought back against their coming genocide and reclaimed their destiny against the humans by fighting the good fight and taking back what was yours. And judging by what you remember of your lessons, you should be approaching or crossing through the demilitarized zone right about now.
And that does not seem to be the case.
It doesn't make sense that you are passing over these open, nondescript fields of grassland. It doesn't sound like an area where great battles and a climactic standstill had reached. It was only 20 years ago. It wouldn't have been enough time for the ravages of a World War scaled event to have put the land back to the pristine state that it is.
Alright, so then I'm going to kind of like reach out and kind of like trace my fingers over the window and be like, the plains are very lovely, but I want to try to investigate and see if it's like a illusion.
Sure. Make an Arcana check with advantage. You know that there is a glamour spell placed on the window. And the two elves kind of look at each other and they're like, yeah, it is. This is usually where the Khanate and the centaurs like to roam. We might pass one of their nomadic villages along the way. They like to fringe along the borders. Easier for them to patrol than us on foot.
Looks like it would be a nice breath of fresh air. And I'm tempted to try rolling down the window.
Make a perception check. There are no window controls in the back seat.
Well, shoot.
When you say that though, the gnome is like, I can turn the elemental conditioning on if you really need a breeze, but nah, there's a lot of pollen and dander out there. You don't want your sinuses acting up. Somewhere in the distance, Arkwright sneezes.
I'm trying to think of a way around this without them, because they're just watching me like a hawk.
I mean, they're sitting across from you, yeah.
Okay, I'll kind of sit back then. Well, I suppose it would be. Shame it's illusory.
Two of them raise their brows and look at each other. Make me one final perception check with advantage. When you say that and you look out, you're able to see through the glamour. And instead of seeing, and it's very brief, instead of seeing the green fields, nondescript, the occasional patches of wildflowers, instead you see a reddish, hellish landscape. It's jagged, blasted looking land. There are dead, twisted trees that you're moving too fast to get a good look at. There are remnants of spears and broken banners that have threadbare flags hanging from them. It looks like a place where a large-scale battle had been fought, and that the land itself had suffered greatly from the conflict and had not begun to recover even after 20 years. And then the glamour kicks back in, and it looks like a nice and perfectly pristine field. And the guards kind of look at you again, and they're like, I mean, nature is subjective, really. It's not so much that it's not real, it's more that it's just not home, you know? Yeah, not home. The two of them nod at each other.
These are my best men.
It's not their fault your daughter is nosy and can't take things at face value and rolls nat 20s on insights.
I'm gonna get Desra on the phone.
The next morning, your bodyguards are dead.
Have any of you been to Moralia before?
The gnome driving kind of snorts. Awful place. Awful place. Humans. So smelly. Gnomes? Halflings? Bunch of cheaters, liars, and thieves. You can't trust them.
Everything I hear about this place is just not good.
It's not good. They destroy everything they touch. You're lucky that the Empress, in her wisdom and glory, had us push back against the onslaught. We all would be dead and lost without her. The two elves nod. They're like, yep, she's great. Glad that we have her.
I don't doubt it. I do hope we can bring it to an end without, more terrible stuff happening.
The two bodyguards will look at each other and look back to you, and they're like, yeah, we also expect that if something happens, that it'll be a quick and decisive victory for us. But, he's like, but if you want to be real, Miss Ithelinda, we fought in the war, and unfortunately, best wishes for a quick victory never happen in war. The centaurs were like, we'll be home by Glublock's day, and sure enough, Glublock's passed, and then another, and then another, and when you have to spend Glublock's day in the trenches across from your hated enemy, there isn't time to play feet ball in the snow.
I'm sorry. You want to give that game another go?
No, feetball. Feetball is what it's called.
Feetball?
Feetball.
Feetball.
Feeball. You have to feet the ball into the hoops.
Yeet ball.
Feeball.
What are the rules?
You have to feed, you have to feed the ball into the hoop.
How tall are the hoops?
8 feet.
What kind of shape is the ball?
The ball
Square.
is an ovoid.
What's the dimensions of this ovoid?
It's roughly rugby ball shaped. There's six players to a team.
How many points do you get?
2. You get it from downtown, which is what they call the goal. You get a Glooblix.
Yeah?
Yeah. Don't ask me what a Glooblix is, though.
What's a Gooblix?
Glooblix is kindly shut the fuck up. Hey, Gleeblox.
I like that we just.
Gleeblox
I like that we
Day.
just invented it. I like that we just invented.
I like that we had to
holiday
ask.
sport.
We had to ask about the sport and not the holiday. That's fine.
I was way more interested in the sport. To be honest with you, I just figured the holiday was just like Christmas.
Nah, don't be silly. This happens in mid-spring. We'll be back before Gleeblox Day. Yeah. All centaurs love their Gleeblocks. Anywho.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Thank you, guys. See, if Morph were paying attention, he wouldn't have questioned anything.
I'm paying attention.
He says several minutes later. That was hours ago, man. It wasn't hours ago.
I wasn't.
Was born yesterday. Fucking tell me what's going on.
I was born after the armistice, but there's so much to hope that a peaceful life for our for new generations would be.
I wouldn't lose sight of what your mission is. Your job here is to remind the FSR that we are still watching, we're still preparing, and we're waiting for them to slip up so that we can renew the war. Don't disappoint the Empress in this task.
Of course not.
Good. It's very important that you complete this task, and we're here to support you 100% and make sure that nothing bad happens to you during it.
If that's the case, would I be allowed to know what's going on?
In what regard?
You said there was nothing to worry about, but I can't seem to shake that worry.
Huh. Well, you don't really need to be worried. There's not anything bad that's going to happen to you on our watch.
All right.
We'll do our best
Trust.
to steer you in the right direction.
I trust in your capabilities. You're, after all,
Here for your
my
protection.
mother's best men.
Of course. We are.
Insight. Are they here for my protection?
Insight.
God damn it.
They are here for your protection.
Okay.
They're here for your protection.
I don't think I got anything else.
Okay. And yeah,
we're about to hit 3 hours.
Yes, we are actually past it, minus banter and stuff. So, yeah, that's probably where the majority of the major events happen along your trip. Probably on like the 5th day of travel is when you start to see the outlying settlements of the FSR proper. The driver does announce when you all pass into the enemy territory and to be on alert. And for the most part, you don't see anything that indicates that the FSR is a very terrible place. You do see settlements and farmland, but that's to be expected of the peasantry. For someone such as yourself, you would even know that, the rank and file peasants aren't the evil establishment that would make up this enemy nation. But, once you get to the city proper, that's where you're going to see the den of scum and villainy. And before long, you do start seeing the towering skyscrapers of steel and stone that make up this megapolis that is Rallia proper. It is a massive complex of buildings and structures that, for your natural elven senses, looks unnatural, but at the same time kind of captivating because it's something new and unexpected. And holy shit, how can humans build such things and live in such places without, what you're used to, where basically everything is natural and trees and flowers, and this just looks like a mess of steel and stone and architecture and just everything that goes against what you've seen growing up in your 20 years.
Yep. So I think Lee's closing line is like getting a look at us and being like, "Where are all the fucking trees?"
Mm-hmm. And you do pass, basically you're going into like a giant mega New York. So there are trees dotted every, couple, tens of feet to spread it out and give some greenery, but there's far more grays and paints and signs and stuff that stand out more. And it's like, why are these trees so small? Why do these trees not look as healthy and natural and the way they're supposed to be? But as you guys are driving, you see the driver get off of the road, and he's like, this spot looks like a good place to go. He's like, the pause. He kind of like reads the sign as they get off an on-ramp, and he's like, I'm sure this is the fastest way to get to where we're going. And the scene kind of draws to a close as the car pulls down this road that is heading towards the site of the factory where the familiars are protesting, down this rundown ghetto neighborhood. And that concludes... Yeah, it's because dwarves did all the building. It's basically true. They probably contracted the dwarves to build all of that. But that is where we will wrap this up for tonight. These have been the prologues for Asiley and Ozwick. Next week, we'll cover Dildra Strongheart and whatever Keavah's decided to name Keavah's character.
But that's not all, buddy.
It's not?
Nope. Me and Keavah's characters are siblings.
But you're not in this.
Yeah, I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you coming back?
Yeah, I'm coming back to this in Civil War. And then I'm going to add stuff kind of as I'm going on.
All right, hold on. Let me wrap this up. So thank you all for watching. Next week we'll cover Rez, Keavah, and Ark's prequel prologue stuff. And then we'll get into the game proper after that. Catch us tomorrow for Vancouver by Night, where we get to go to a cool party. Party.
Park?
I wanna have a party.
Oh, okay.
We got
maybe
invited.
the party's at a park.
We got invited.
But they're still horrible vampires.
We got invited to a party by the Harpy, and we're gonna dress up and be fabulous. And we actually do get to be horrible people because we get to abduct a bunch of people and provide the beverages and stuff. It's gonna be not quite yet. How dare you? We're gonna go to this party this week. We're gonna go. Gonna get some. Yeah, we gotta abduct some people.
Hey, Ren.
Yeah.
Watch out! Don't get herpes from the Harpy.
Oh. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.
Night.
Bye.